With the recent announcement of the shake-up of the F1 calendar for 2021, there has been much discussion surrounding which tracks should and shouldn't make the cut. Many people are frustrated that despite featuring over 20 circuits, Formula 1 has no space for the likes of the Nürburgring, Mugello or Sepang. This is even more frustrating because tracks such as Catalunya, Sochi and Yas Marina remain present, despite their horrendous entertainment record. Of course, this directly influences the F1 games, because they only featured the official tracks from that season. This has meant that despite featuring in F1 2019, the Hockenheim Ring was removed for F1 2020. There is unfortunately no perfect scenario here. Firstly, Formula 1 will never have the perfect calendar featuring all the best tracks. This will always be up for debate. And secondly, Codemasters are limited to only featuring the current tracks. Therefore, like the real calendar itself, we will always miss out. However, in this video I am proposing a very simple solution. One that will comfort the developers and grant the community with the freedom to race wherever they want. Here's the idea. Forge changed Halo when it was introduced in 2007. The freedom and ability to create maps using objects, scenery, settings, etc. gave Halo 3 a replay value unlike any other Halo game. Everyone will agree that the base maps that Bungie put onto the disc were great, but allowing players to choose otherwise generated so much more content for fans to enjoy. Forge has seen many improvements over the years, culminating in the mode we see today in Halo 5 Guardians. Certainly less accessible than its predecessors, but far more detailed, precise and complete. So what would happen if we introduced a Forge style mode into the F1 games? Well, firstly there is the initial major problem of detail. F1 tracks are set in real life locations across the world, and giving players the tools to attempt to create similar looking tracks would be tough. Especially on consoles, I think Codemasters would have to compromise and give players a set number of canvases on which they can produce their track. It could be, say, 7 miles squared, and each one contains a unique setting for each track, similar to Halo 5's canvases. Of course, players could add objects to help the aesthetics, but we'll get to that later. Next we have the issue of the track itself. I believe this would have to be drawn on a slightly separate mode, some sort of 2D track editor that can then be edited in 3D to change things like elevation, camber, etc. You would decide the width of the track, the start-finish line, where each sector starts and ends, the DRS points, the pit lane, the boundaries of the track in terms of Armco barriers, runoff areas, curbs, etc. You could also alter the surface of the track itself, determining how harsh it would be on the tyres, where the racing line would be in the wet, etc. Once you determine all of this, the game would then produce the track on the canvas. You can now begin to alter the aesthetics of the track. The first thing would be the skybox, maybe choosing from an array of different selections. This would go hand in hand with the temperature and weather, and you would be able to decide how likely certain weather events would be. Now the Forge aspect comes into play, as you'll be able to place a vast array of objects outside the track boundaries, such as stands, buildings, foliage, etc. This would admittedly be limited as there would only be a set amount of objects to choose from, but nonetheless it would give players the ability to accurately recreate real life tracks and even produce their own custom tracks. These could then be saved onto some sort of file share system, and players can then download other people's tracks and play them with their friends. And if we want, we could add an in-game section dedicated to featuring the best tracks the community has to offer. In many games this is common practice, and such a feature would really enhance F1 as a franchise. We all wish the F1 games would contain all the best tracks, but this just isn't feasible. The introduction of a Forge style mode would certainly fix this issue, and allow players to experience tracks that they otherwise wouldn't, adding extra replay value to the game and nourishing a potential sub-community for years to come. It's not perfect, but hey, it's just an idea.